order.
Hold on one second.
We're good?
Now you're good.
Okay, I'd like to call the governance committee meeting to order. At this time, I will turn the meeting over to Susanna Schurz.
Good morning. Good morning, members of the board. You all received a copy of my report. We have a lot of exciting things going on in the world of governance. We recently updated the strategic plan. The strategic plan we update every year. It's part of the comprehensive annual report that you will get in next month's board meeting. We, as an executive team, meet quarterly to review our progress on strategic goals, review our long-term plan to make sure that the goals that we're working on are in line with our long-term vision, and our current programs that we're working on. Right now, our main program goals are financial sustainability, service and ridership, workforce engagement and development, customer focus and community partnership, and technology and infrastructure. So those are our 5 overall kind of longer term goals, and we have individual measurable initiatives within each of those categories. When you get the copy of the document next month, it'll have updates on what we've achieved in the past year and what we are looking forward to achieve in this next coming year. So unlike some strategic plans where it's you do it once and it's 5 years later you revisit it, this is a working tool that we use on a quarterly basis. Any questions on that?
With that being working, that means you can amend it when you feel it's appropriate?
Well, we work on it on a continuous basis. We track progress on a separate scale, but the actual plan document we do update once a year for forward-facing consumption.
Speaking of technology, this is my area. Central Rod, technology, facing the 5G program.
I can't.
5G.
5G.
What about it?
Since we got across the street from them, are you going to get into that program, change everything to 5G? Does that make sense?
As far as anything of our radio is through the cellular,
Mhm.
I'm not sure if Clever is operating. I think some of their stuff's operating on 5G.
Okay.
Josh,
Currently, I don't think they have a 5G router for vehicles.
Okay.
2 companies are working on one, but it's probably not till early next year before they have one out. So they are looking into it, something we probably will do in the future, especially with having buses 12 years, so.
But as far as JMA is involved in that.
That's why I was.
Yeah, I don't think GMA does anything with onboard vehicle routers. It's mostly like cell phones and other sort of technology. So nothing that I've heard of with vehicles.
So one of the other things that we do as part of the strategic planning process is track our performance measurements. We have to, under the Public Authorities Law, Section 2824A, and under the Authorities Budget Office Policy Guidance, issue a report annually of our defined performance measures. This report is required to be reviewed by the board, but there's no action necessary. This is something that we post on our public facing website, and we also submit to our New York State as part of the annual report. We measure 14 defined different measurements that are detailed in the annual report that you received. This year, we saw some positive improvements over our last year, which our last year was our first full pandemic year, so we saw some pretty significant decreases in ridership and some interesting trends along all of our other measurements last year. This year, our ridership had a 56% increase over our previous pandemic year. We are still down about 49% from fiscal year 2020, but we are continuing on an upward trend with ridership, which is good news. Some interesting, not interesting, but pretty consistent trends with all of our other measurements that are what you would expect with the ongoing items related to the COVID-19 pandemic. So nothing that we saw in our performance measurements trending was something that was unexpected or unanticipated with what's going on. Any questions on the measurements report?
That's good. That's good work. You did good work.
It's interesting to see the
We're
trends.
still working with Susanna on her definition of exciting, but.
I don't think it's ever going to.
That'll happen over time.
A lot of work goes into that stuff, being in higher education, and none of us get excited to go to these meetings to do that. And
She does.
And, right, but there's a certain person that really gets excited for this stuff. And, you know, someone's gotta do it.
Yeah.
And someone's gotta like what they do,
Mhm.
and that's what you're doing.
We found her.
And there's only a few of yous in the world, there's not a lot of people.
That's right.
Right, so good job, good job.
Yeah, no, it is definitely interesting to see all of the data come together, because it certainly can be a useful tool, the more we get into it. So this doesn't need any board motion or anything, it simply just needs to be in the minutes that it was reviewed by the board. If there are any questions on any of the measurements at any time, feel free to reach out or ask questions. We can also, change the measurements at any time. If there's anything that the board would like to see us begin to measure or add to this report, or even just as a separate, request, we can always do that as well.
And all joking aside, I do wanna thank Susanna. I mean, it's a tremendous task that she does, and, you know, it's something we need to do. And, there aren't many, as Nick said, there aren't many people in the world that can really pull this off and have a smile on their face at the same time, so,
And,
thank you.
Gonna give you a big head here.
yeah, well, Monty knows that we call it, assessment in higher education, and, you know, that's what it's really about, too.
Well, I don't do it alone. I definitely, have a lot of help from all of the departments that I incessantly ask for all the information for all the time. So it's not a sole effort. It's an effort of everybody here working together to get this information into a format that's useful. So that's all I have for the measurement report. This is something that you'll get every year. Every May we bring this forward and publish it. In addition to the strategic planning process, under the internal control program is the internal control review. As I mentioned back in February, we historically did this as a annual kind of blanket review over every one of our departments, as a method to try to kind of get our program a little bit more robust. This last year, through the addition of a control management software called Auto Audit and department expansion, we are able to now, instead of doing a blanket review over each unit, we are doing a more targeted risk-based review across all of our functions. So instead of reviewing 20 departments, we're now going to be reviewing 300 and some odd individual functions every year. So we are still in the process of transitioning from the old style of review to the new style. Everything is moving along. In June, you will get a summary report that we have to submit every year to the state as well, just summarizing what we're doing for internal control, and certifying to our system. As long as we haven't found any material issues, we will certify, which at this moment we have not, which is good. And it'll have more information as to kind of what exactly is involved in this new program in that report as well. Any questions on the internal control review process, what we're doing for that? Again, yet another really exciting and fun topic. Okay, wonderful. And then again, one of the other requirements under the public authority law relating to internal control, we do have to provide for continuing education as it relates to internal control, rather than scheduling in-person sessions where I talk to everybody about internal control all day. We do a quarterly newsletter that highlights internal control topics and brings those kind of to the forefront of our staff. All of our administrative staff here are eligible to participate. We don't make this a requirement at this time. It is optional to participate in the newsletter. However, if you do participate and complete the quiz, are entered into a drawing for a little incentive as part of our RPM incentive program. Any questions on the watchdog?
Newsletter is electronic or is it paper?
I release it electronically, so it is released on our company intranet, and then I accept the quiz responses right on our intranet as well too, so they can go in and actually just answer the quizzes all electronically. I still do have some people who opt to complete it in paper and send it in, but the overwhelming majority of people use the online format. Any questions, comments, concerns?
Very good.
Nice.
Thank
detail.
you.
Very good.
Thank you, Susanna, for your wonderful, informative, and exciting.
Yes.
information.
For that, wonderful. That's it, that concludes my report.
Okay, Ms. Matsango has, a change to the salary defined contribution plan, and she'd like to present it at this time, yes or no?
No.
No? Okay,
My apologies.
I
okay,
think that's a mistake.
okay, so scratch that,
I
everybody.
didn't think I was on the docket.
Well, not for
I
governance.
was wondering why you weren't here.
But I'm like, you know, I can wing it.
Okay. Okay, all right, I guess that concludes then, Mr. Chairman, that concludes our pension
Very good. Very
meeting,
good.
I mean, our
Governance.
governance meeting.
Okay, we'll go right into the next, committee meeting.
Just one quick. You're good? Yeah, you're good, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Audit and Finance Committee meeting. Um, Came up here actually, this past week, as I usually do, to go over
That's
the,
okay.
the numbers with the company, and, still trending very well. But I think a couple of remarks there before we get into the actual committee. From all sides, actually, we're in a solid financial position. And as she goes through some of her comments, the mortgage recording tax continues to have a Hall of Fame year. I just wish some of our forefathers were here to see that around this table, because they would probably put them in the grave if they saw it, so excited. So, Linda, why don't we start out with our draft financial statements?
Sure. So these are our draft financial statements as of March 31st, 2022. As I told you before, we're going through audit, and the final draft will be presented by Bonadeo Group at our June board meeting. So the first one is on page 2, statement of net position. Our net position right now is very favorable. Our quick ratio as of March 31st is 6.82. That's an improvement since March 31st, 2021, when the quick ratio was 3.53. And just so you all know that the 6.82 means that CNYRTA has approximately $6.82 in current assets to pay for every $1 in current liabilities. So that's favorable. Our current assets have increased by $9 million or 30% compared to March 31st, 2021. As you look at the statement, I'll just go over the biggest variances. Cash and cash equivalent balances have improved by $1.6 million, and that's mainly due to our timely receipt of STOA and our mortgage tax receipts. Cash and cash equivalents were designated. You all have approved the increases in our reserves, so that was a $6.5 million change. Operating assistance receivables decreased by $1.3 million, and that's mainly due to the timely receipts of, $1.6 million, that's the combination of all the receivables, I'm sorry. And that's just due to our grants receivable projects completed at the end of the fiscal year and our pool of records of funding. And lastly, the materials and supplies decreased by about $251,000, and that's mainly due to our bus inventory. We have our new software implementation. We identified a lot of obsolete inventory, so there's decreases there, being offset by increases in cost of parts. And the prepaid and other current assets decreased by $514,000, and that's mainly due to our workers' compensation cash flow refund we received in prior year. For current liabilities, they have decreased by 918,000. And the main things I want to go over with that is our accounts payable bills, they decreased by 829,000 compared to prior year, and that's mainly due to remitted in this current year, all of our payables as of March 31st. And that's because of that significant cash flow that allowed us to do that. Accrued salaries, liabilities, and benefits, they have decreased by about 520,000, and that's mainly due to our year-end accrual. We only accrued for 2 days in current year versus 10 in prior year. And lastly, the estimated claims payable balance increased by 414,000 compared to prior year, and that's due to our adjustment to our IBNR, meaning incurred but not reported healthcare claims. They were evaluated as of March 2022, and we had to make an increase in that.
Quick question. So the acute 2 days in current year versus 10.
In prior year, we had, because of the way that the fiscal year ended, we had to group one payroll plus 2 other days.
Okay.
And this year, we only had to do 2 days. So any questions on our statement of net position?
Questions? I'll need a motion to move this forward.
Oh, I have one.
Okay. Oh, all right.
That was just the statement of net position.
Yeah.
Okay. And moving on, page 4, we have our statement of revenues and expenditures again. This is just preliminary. I won't go over too much detail. Pretty much most of the lines are the same trends that we've gone over every month this fiscal year. We're right now projecting a $9.4 million gain. And this is all prior to us having our final year-end entries for OPEB and GASB, as those are things that we do usually during audit. We're awaiting our actuarial statements to perform those entries. So they'll be changed. Those are the only anticipated changes at this time. Operating revenues still trending 10% over budget, almost 34% over prior year. But as you can see from the chart, we're still in fiscal year 22 trending about 24% under pre-pandemic levels. Operating expenses, most of the lines again are in line with the rest of the fiscal year. Still trending 8.6% under budget and about 2% over prior year.
Which is important to note too, I mean, even though we're over last period, we're still under pre-pandemic. You know, and that's something we're trying to get back to.
Yes, in revenue.
Is that something that state and nationally on some of this? You know, that trend is not, it's global.
Yeah, it's not just us, you know,
Yeah.
Chris and I have been on, local conference calls with our state delegation, our state partners, and then our, national partners through APTA, and it's the same thing all over.
Okay. Continue.
So as revenues have been trending over budget, but expenses all year have mostly been trending under budget and about 1% with prior year, but as of March 31st, compared to pre-pandemic levels, we are 11% over pre-pandemic, and that change is just due to in the prior year, we had in the pre-pandemic year, we had a workers' compensation adjustment, which lowered the expenses in fiscal year 20 as of March 31st. So currently, we're now trending over prior year, and that's something to think about in future years. So are there any questions about this statement?
Yeah, the only other thing I'd like to note is that, as previously noted, we did very well in this budget cycle. We experienced statewide was around 15% increase in STOA. We got around 17% because some of the American Railway secured some additional funds. We as a leadership team, so myself, Chris, the VPs, and in consultation with decided to return some of that money to the employees. Cause we just thought it was the right thing to do. So last Friday, we issued, $1,250 checks to any full-time employees, $625 to part-time employees, much like we did back in late June, early July of 2020 when the pandemic was in full bore and we got some federal dollars. You know, we used some of that money to, you know, give an appreciation check to the employees. So we did that again, just to make everybody aware.
And the board's always been, in full support of having, making sure the employees get recognized for their hard work and effort, especially during some, really screwed up times.
So about 75% of the dollars that we distributed went to the union employees. The other 25% were on the salary side. So it was very well received. We got a lot of positive feedback, and quite honestly, I mean, it was just the right thing to do. Sorry, Lynn, go ahead.
On page 7 is the mortgage tax receipt statement. We had, as Nick said earlier, a very good year. Actually, it's a new record year, 11.2 million. And the next statement is the cash flow, because we had great mortgage tax receipts and still up. You know, our cash flow at the end of the year is very positive. And the other required statements, we have a reserve statement showing the three reserves we've created, there's been no borrowings against that. Our receivables are on the next page. As of March 31st, our receivables are in very good shape. And the quarterly investment report is also included, it's also required. And that's it for the financial statements, unless there's some questions.
Any questions? Okay. Now I ask for a motion. Julius? Second Tina. Any discussion, all in favor? Aye. Okay, moving on. Jackie? Medical insurance premium right out.
Good morning, everyone. So I'm here for a motion to write off, a terminated employee's balance of $6,709.90. The balance is due to an employee who was out of work previously, had a balance on their account for their medical insurance, then went out of work again, accrued more monies against it, and failed to pay it off and is now terminated. So every once in a while, and this has been at least 3 to 4 years that I've approached the board to ask for a write-off, because we kind of try to negate this from happening, but there is every so often one person that will fall on our books that we need permission from the board to write off because it's over a $5,000 balance. So I'm asking for this motion from the board to write this off.
Okay, I don't think this needs a discussion, most of the board needs a discussion, but I don't believe it does. You put a lot of time and effort in a situation like this. I would ask for a motion unless anybody has comment.
He
Tina?
said he's terminated, he's not.
Yes,
hired.
he's terminated, so that's why we have to write the balance off.
Is this a taxable event? Does he get it? Cause you're going alone.
Should, but
We'll let you can take that offline and check with,
That's, I was gonna say, that's the accounting department.
No, that would be something you would just have to.
He would.
okay. Second, I have, Tina made a motion, second. Well, all in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, Tara, on the zero emission fleet. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. So the zero emission transition plan that you have in your packet is a requirement to the Low-No grant opportunity that we are going to be applying for. In March of this year, $1.1 billion was issued from the FTA for competitive grant programs for both the Low-No program and bus facilities program. So this is for low or no emission vehicles. So all of our applications are due, we are going to have 2 of them. So we are going to do facilities and buses. And they are
Two
due,
applications.
correct, they're due May 31st. And in that application, they call for a transition plan. How are we gonna go from the vehicles we have now to these 0 or low emission vehicles? And in that plan, they wanted to highlight rail. So this is not a robust plan that's in front of you. The requirement is 2 to 3 pages. Ours is about 2.5. And they want us to demonstrate what that transition will look like. What funding do we have on our side that we can secure to make sure this happens if we're awarded this grant? What is the workforce development for the employees, because these buses will be new to us? And what will need to be done to the facilities themselves? And the final thing they wanna see would be a fuel provider. So within that, we talk about hydrogen, because that will be the vehicles we are applying for. In the coming months, we will have a more robust plan on the table for you that will be much thicker and, much more informational. And that will be for resolution. So for now, this is just a motion, so I can include it in the grant application as presented.
Questions for Tara?
So, due by the 31st,
Of May, correct.
when do you get back?
Probably August or so this year.
And then we're roughly on the 18-month schedule from when we place orders, that's when
Yeah.
receiving these vehicles. So if we get approved for this, we're working with 2 different bus manufacturers, to apply for these funds to receive buses from Eldorado and Blue Flyer. And then once we get on their schedule, the money's in place for about 18 months before we would see delivery on it.
And you'd be working any changes that need to be made here?
Yeah, so this change would require some facility changes. Currently, we have CNG sensors in the garage that if there's a CNG leak, the sensors will set off the alarm system. So we would have to upgrade those to also detect hydrogen. And then there's also some safety issues, things that we have to upgrade in the fueling station. And then it would also include training for our maintenance employees and even some of our operators on how this technology works and the benefits of driving it, because it does change your driving ability. If you've ever driven an electric vehicle, there's regen through the braking process and different things. Don't slam on the gas and slam on the brakes. There's a process that too. So we're probably into 2024 before we can see a vehicle if we do get approved.
Yeah, just along the timing process, they'll announce in August, but we won't be able to apply for the grant funds until the new federal fiscal year starting October 1st. So the grant will probably be in place hopefully in the January timeframe of 2023. So.
Yeah.
You get New York State credit for any of this, their emissions credit, whatever, from New York State that they were, we want you to go, everyone to
Well,
go to the.
it was part of the larger plan from New York State legislation, yes. This also would coincide with, some of the legislation that's out there. It has not been, pushed through for us at this time, but it does, it would help fulfill that plan when we get it. There is legislation out there, but it hasn't been passed yet.
Any other questions?
Thanks.
Need a motion? Robert, second Monty, all in favor? Aye. Okay.
Thank you.
Are we gonna get a card for board members? Hydrogen.
Well, the best I can
I
give
hear
you
they're
is
making
a-
those in Mercedes. I'm just curious.
There won't be a car, but you'll be able to sit in a $1 million vehicle.
Oh, okay.
So-
Yeah. Was it 1.4?
Yes, we can ride in there,
Roughly 1.4 million, I think is what their quotes came through.
yes. So, and we're applying for 5.
With 15 other people or just myself?
Well, maybe we can give you your single ride first.
Okay.
Yep, over the years.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Chris? Motions 4C and 4D, sprinkler system inspections, and the printer maintenance contract.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone. This resolution is for sprinkler system inspections for years 2022 through 2027. The contract will be paid for using operating funds. The invitation for bid was publicly let on March 15th. 18 bid packages were sent out, of which 5 were sent to minority and women-owned business enterprises. An additional 7 bid packages were requested. On April 5th, 2 bids were received, with the lowest responsible bidder being Parkside Fire and Security. There is a full 30% MWBE goal on this contract. Therefore, it is our recommendation that the board awards for a full 5-year term the contract for sprinkler system inspections to Parkside Fire and Security.
Questions? Pretty straightforward. Okay, motion. Tina, second. Tina, second, Darlene, all in favor? Aye. Okay, motion carries. 4D, we're gonna look at resolution 4D, printer maintenance services.
So this resolution is for printer maintenance services for years 2022 through 2027. The contract will be paid for using operating funds. And before I get too far into this, I want to direct everyone to page 2. The pricing received, there is an error on the vendor net copy is listed at 0.07 cents per page, and the overage rate per page at 0.07 as well. That should be 0.007. This invitation for bid was publicly let on February 25th. 23 bid packages were sent out, of which 8 were sent to minority and women-owned business enterprises. An additional 7 bid packages were requested. On March 18th, 3 bids were received, with the lowest responsible bidder being Eastern Managed Print Network. There's also a 30% MWBE goal on this contract. Therefore, it is our recommendation that the board award for a full 5-year term the contract for printer maintenance services to Eastern Managed Print Network.
Okay, questions? Numbers are there. Have a motion? Darlene, second. Neil, all in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
What else, anything else?
That's it.
That's it, let's take about 5 minutes.
Hold on, Lynn.
We got a resolution, hold on, we got a resolution.
Nice that.
Yeah, we need money.
Oh, I'm sorry, I went over you, Jack, I'm sorry.
For what?
Yeah, you were right, you know what? You know, when I saw this, I said, geez, Tara's right in a row twice, I gotta remember that, yeah, and then I
That's
excused
all.
it.
Sorry.
All right.
That's okay.
Thanks, Chris.
That's okay.
Got my back here today.
Thank
My
you.
ears on. All right.
I'm sure you guys want me sitting at the table for this.
This is a good one.
This is
Yeah,
good.
no, this is good, because this is where we receive.
This resolution is for attachment 5, with the New York State Department of Transportation for $5,959,195. These monies will be used to pay for various capital projects, and we need the authorization for the CEO to sign off on those contracts.
Okay, motion for acceptance, whoa.
Motion from everybody.
Whoa.
Second from everybody.
Tina almost took Neil right out. All right, holy cow. Okay, Tina made the motion, Neil made the second, all in favor, aye.
Mr. Chairman, if you could stay after the meeting to sign the contracts as well,
Absolutely.
that would be great.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll take 5.
School district.
Yeah, and I've seen it.
We're gonna start, folks. We'll start.
We're going live.
Okay. Before we start the meeting, I just wanna acknowledge something, one of our board members who I'm really proud of, and I know the folks here are proud of.
Right.
Tony Davis has been called upon to be the interim superintendent of Syracuse City School District, so, good for Tony, God bless him, so, I did accept him being excused today. So,
It's a new job, he's slacking already.
Good for Tony, I think he's gonna make a good difference
Yes.
in his role, and he's,
Excellent.
he's very strong background with that, so I was very proud of him, and I know we all are, so, good job, Tony. All right, let's start with the pledge of allegiance. Neil is gonna lead us today.
Alright, you're gonna have to sing me home here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a quorum present. Our next meeting date is June 24th. Remember, this was pulled up because of the holiday weekend. And a motion to approve the regular minutes of April 22nd meeting.
We'll do
Okay. Julius, Tina second, all in favor, aye. I need a motion to approve the minutes for the annual meeting. That was the regular, we also had the annual meeting. Luella, second. Darlene, all in favor, aye. Okay, Mr. Schultz.
Thank you, Mr.
Just for note, the only committee meeting we got next month is audit and finance, Mr. Schultz.
Mr. Chairman, as noted in my report, we continue to give the COVID update. We didn't have any employees out as of the writing of this report, which is great news.
Good news.
As you know, in the past, that's gone from nothing to,
It's a peak.
to high numbers. Our very, very peak, and this is back in 2000 when the pandemic was in full swing, we were probably at 125, 130 employees out. But since then, it's been very manageable, in the, low single digits to maybe double digits over the last couple months, so that's good news. As you can see on the money we've drawn down, we have not in the last couple months. So we still have some federal dollars available to us, as we move through this. SMTC planning and policy committees, these were big meetings. Chris and I participated in these, and I say they're big meetings because one of the major topics was the approval of the money for the I-81 redesign, redevelopment, construction, deconstruction, whatever you wanna call it, of $2.25 billion, which is huge for this area. So this really set the path forward for the first couple of phases of the I-81 redesign. We had our quarterly ATEC meeting, which went very well. They had questions on the budget, they had questions on the fare changes. So that went well. Earth Day cleanup. I have to tell you, I was very proud of our staff. Last year on our Earth Day cleanup, we had roughly 20 central employees participate. This year we hosted it, we kind of gathered, different employers and community groups throughout the area. We had over 50 central employees and their family members, gathered better than 100 bags of garbage in our area. And that doesn't count all the community groups that participated. You know, so we had well over 200 people gathering in the J lot. So it was a huge success. I wanna thank Caitlin for her efforts in gathering all her supplies and organizing that. Paula and Julia from the planning department, they did a phenomenal job and, you know, coordinating with all the other community groups and mapping out who's gonna be where. So it was a great event for Central. System redesign on April 21, we hosted a meeting with SMTC partners to really kick off what's gonna start to be the new Centro. They're gonna help us with public input. You know, one of the things I did not wanna see happen was that, you know, you got 3 or 4, 6, 8, 10 people from Centro sitting around this table stating, you know, this is how we're gonna redesign the bus system when we really need to reach out to the people that are riding the system and the people that are using it on a daily basis. So SMTC is going to partner with us. They are going to help us, you know, survey our riders, survey the public on what the bus system should look like. So we're going to embark on that process. RPM, we continue to you know, provide additional compensation to our employees that are making a difference. RPM is reaching productivity milestones. Employees can earn additional compensation based on their productivity and their ability to add to the bottom line in a positive way for the company. To date, since we implemented this, we've paid out just about $250,000 in additional compensation to employees. You know, 96% of that went to union employees. You know, and helping them understand that, you know, if you're helping us company-wide add to the bottom line and doing it in a productive and positive way, you're gonna make more money. So that's working out well. And then the APTA Mobility Conference, myself, Chris, Jeff Hoff, Mike Rice attended that in Columbus. I'm gonna defer that to Chris for his report, to give you some more information on that. And then employee appreciation, much like we did back in late June, early July of 2020 in the height of the pandemic, when we first got our first round of federal funding, we issued some appreciation money to the employees. We did that again last Friday. As you're aware, we had a great budget cycle. You know, we experienced the single largest increase in STOA that we've, as an authority, have ever received. We felt it was only right to return some of that to the employees. So every full-time employee got a $1,250 check. Every part-time employee got a $625 check. It was very well received, and it was the right thing to do. They all got a letter explaining, you know, why and where it came from myself, Chris, and the chairman. And like I said, it was very well received, and it was the right thing to do. So any questions on my report?
Not a question, I'm just glad to hear that you said that you're gonna be reaching out to the public about the EA1 change coming in, because a lot of people ask me how it's gonna work and something, you know. Probably, I'd like to suggest maybe sometime, we're meeting publicly now at the center down on Savannah Street, maybe have someone come update about what's the changes are.
Yeah, and these are gonna be public meetings.
Yeah.
So when you say the bus system redesign, you mean just Syracuse or all?
Everything.
Mm-hmm.
When are you gonna start your kind of approximately, you know, reaching out to get this?
they asked me, it would have been like a few months ago, but it's a process and, you know, SMTC is working on that right now. So it's gonna be a process over the next 12 months,
Right.
probably, that will culminate in, here's some ideas, here's some suggestions, and this is what you should do.
You want folks from Oswego to call you, or you want?
No, we're gonna have meetings in Oswego,
Okay.
and we'll publicize those. Yep. We're gonna do that in all of our properties. All right, good. Mr. Chairman, that's it. I'll go into our senior VPs or our senior leadership reports, and I'll start with Chris.
Thank you, Brian. Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, members of the board. As Brian stated at the beginning of May, we attended the APTA Mobility Conference. Jeff Hawk, Mike Rice, Brian, and myself. These conferences are the national chapter. We have NICTA here in New York. We have APTA on the national level. This conference being a mobility conference, a little smaller than typical of the fall conference, but a lot of great information. It's our second one, finally going back to being in person. So during this conference, a lot of knowledge and sharing. It's, you know, gathering of information of what the national transit authorities are seeing. We did a lot of research, Jeff and I, regarding the low-no grant that Tara and you guys will approve the motion for. Reaching out to our vendors, contacting our bus manufacturers to see their vehicles in person, what information we can gather, their partners as far as the training, the other facilities. So we spent several days doing that. Also there while in Columbus, I don't think I'm gonna steal Jackie's thunder on this, but you know, as we continue to talk about recruitment, we're looking at avenues of what are other agencies doing. So one large takeaway we got actually from Columbus themselves, the Columbus Area Transit Authority, they are actually partnering with technical schools in their city school district as an apprenticeship program to bring students on to learn as part of their technical automotive program, to bring them into the transit authority, to then bring them into the mechanic system. So Jeff Hoff is diligently working to get contacts with them and figure out how are they exercising this plan, you know, liability purposes, how is it functioning, how they're working with the schools. From what we understand, they started with one technical school, they're now working with 3 in the Columbus area. They start
Schools or
out
college?
high schools. So they're working with seniors in high school, and then depending on their performance during the apprenticeship program is putting them into the system and hiring them on as mechanics with them. So whether it becomes part of an additional training school, we're not sure. So those are some of the details we're working out, but that was one of the biggest takeaways that we wanted to focus on down there, and that we actually are gaining ground on, you know, different ways of recruitment. How can we get individuals coming out of high school? You know, as we know, national or college debt and people going to college or different things, taking on that debt is always a touchy subject for certain people. So, you know, if we can get these individuals in the community into Centro sooner, starting a career sooner, you know, that they're just not, college may not be for them, but they're good with their hands and technical side. So that's one of the biggest things we're working on right now, aside from some other items of supplies and parts and, you know, different technology that's out there that we can now start putting into our buses or looking at to put into our buses. So that's one of the huge things. If Tony was here, we'd probably continue this conversation, but it's something we're hopeful that we can start working with the school districts. It's a benefit to us in the long run. It helps us on the mechanic side, and maybe we can generate some of the operators as well.
Would you think about doing that, like with Morrisville? Onondaga's got an automotive program.
Do they still have it? I didn't know OCC still had one.
Canton
does. Got a good program.
But, and that's another conversation, so, from Jackie's conversation, as you hear a little bit more about some of the recruiting events we've done, we actually came in contact with an individual that has he works at TCAT as a mechanic, but he actually came through the Morrisville, apprenticeship program that TCAT has a partnership with them, which we were unaware of. We were under the influence that they're very heavily involved with Penske or other, national chains. So we're in the process of getting a contact at Morrisville and those colleges to see how can we get involved with that as well.
One question. This may not make sense to you, but it's on my mind.
Okay.
Would you think about the school district, kids who are going through this process to maybe give them some type of credit.
Towards their schooling.
Toward their school.
Yeah, and that's what we're trying to figure out. I think that's something we could do as part of it, you know, is, as you may do the automotive piece on a gas engine, now you can come to Centro and spend several weeks or whatever it is here. That counts towards the curriculum in the automotive. Because we have an opportunity to expose them to diesel engines, CNG engines. You know, we do all our in-house maintenance on all of our cars, our lawnmowers, our, you know, anything that has an engine, we do in-house for the most part, so.
And
we
your
can
electrical
expose them to
system
it.
coming into that might be another.
Yeah, we'll be the only ones with hydrogen in there.
Yeah, as of right now, yes. So that'll be another exposure that we have the opportunity to look at.
Well, and that's where I think, not to against high schools, but reaching out to the colleges, they're gonna wanna be at that level at least. Morrisville does a pretty good job of getting people out there. And Morrisville can hook it up as, I know Onondaga used to do this, it's a paid internship in something. I mean, you're paying them, but you kinda getting some flavor of how they work and,
Yeah, so those are the details we're trying to sort out, and maybe you guys can pitch in with higher education and even.
Good idea. I like that.
Yeah, and so, you know, we're looking at that and other avenues, additional training opportunities down the road that, you know, we're trying to develop and maybe do some more things in-house than trying to relying on external industry to help fund our.
They can be part on your website, you need a little, I don't know how to do it, tactic on the website, and they can go look at it and, I don't know.
Yeah, once we get to that point, absolutely. Any other questions? Thoughts? Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Jackie?
Good morning, everyone again. I was gonna say afternoon, jeez, trying to push the day along. Just playing a little bit off of Chris's recruitment, Central hosted a recruitment event on property, last week. And I believe it was a successful event. We had about 20 candidates each day show up. We had on-the-site interviews, so people were interviewed, offered positions. Out of this event, we got 2 mechanics that we're looking at hiring, 3 cleaner servicers, and 6 bus operators. So we're looking to do this again in September for the fall class coming in, because we felt that, you know, at least they're interested in Centro and we know that they're coming here to look for a job.
So if you're gonna be a cleaner, you need to be able to get a CDL license.
As of right now, yes.
That's one of the things, Monty, that we're looking at splitting out.
Yeah.
You know, so.
I had a question on that, that's why I asked.
Yeah.
Yeah, and right now, yes, but what we're finding is there's, you know, a number of individuals that just wanna come in and work as cleaners and clean the bus. So we're gonna split it out and make it 2 separate, classifications.
Now, when you have a person come in for a cleaning position, would you train them to be able to get their CDL?
Currently, we do train them to get their
Yeah.
CDL.
If that's the goal, yes.
Yeah, I mean, and part of this, that we're looking when we're breaking it out is it for it to be a stepping stone. So if they start as a cleaner and they wanna become a servicer, then they can get their CDL, go into servicing, et cetera, and move up through the ranks if they wanna become a mechanics.
At the very least, we can get them in the door and not disqualify them because they don't have or aren't willing to get their CDL.
Right. Right.
Good move, that's a good move.
Gotta find
Yeah, some-
people somehow.
That's a good thing.
Yep, absolutely. One other thing that I wanna mention is, obviously you know that Centro is involved in community events, throughout the Syracuse, area. We have participated over the last 4 years in a program with the Syracuse City School District that's called Blessings in a Backpack. If you're not familiar with that, Carmen Brienza, our HR manager, heads the program for Centro. And we provide 120 kids with meals to take home over the weekend. Our sponsorship is Dr. King Elementary. Obviously, the program was paused during COVID for about 1.5 years. It is now back on. We've started back up as of January this past year. It will continue until the end of the school year, and then in the fall, we'll continue the program, so.
So you get your food from who? Where do you get it?
Actually, Cisco. So they provide all the food, and then we transport it over to the school every Friday.
It's a good program.
It is, it's a great program.
Yes, it's a great
It is.
program.
This is
because
something
there are many kids,
Yes.
Introduced,
many kids that, because there were some kids in my classroom, I know, on the weekend, they don't have food, so it really served a good purpose.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is something I introduced, I don't know, 5 years ago?
Yeah, 4 years. we've
4 or
been
5
doing it.
years
Yeah.
ago when I was chairman, and I'm glad to see that they've continued with it, but back then, it was, the food got delivered here in bulk, and, you had people stuffing bags, and the
Packaging,
bags
yep.
got delivered. So, now we're getting the pre-made packages that we deliver, but it's still a wonderful program,
It is.
because these kids have,
It is.
And
they
just,
don't have any other food source over the weekend.
I was gonna say, just to put relevancy on it, when we started the program, we were feeding 50 kids over the weekend, now we're up to 120. So,
That's huge.
And you said
Poverty
you-
is so
Like I said,
bad in
these
this
kids- These
town.
kids have no other food option over the weekend. They get breakfast and lunch at school during the week.
Yeah.
But they go home over the weekend and there's nothing.
Yeah, we have a program in Auburn, but it's the parent-teacher organization at the elementary schools do it. And they ask for donations from the students in the school that have extra. They bring them to the classroom and the parents come and teachers come and make up the bags. And on the weekends, send them home in the backpacks of the little children who are needy.
The last couple of years, we started a food pantry at the college, and all of a sudden now we have freezers in there, refrigerators in there, and we put it in a place where, it's not in a high traffic place, so people sometimes wanna be private, but, go in there, it's set up just like a small corner grocery store, actually.
Tony, so I ran one of those on and on, and I can remember in the beginning, the privacy and people were kinda shy.
Yeah.
After one semester though.
Yeah.
And we did it Mondays and Thursdays because of the weekends. The people weren't, they said, "Look, this is saving me for the weekend." And
Yeah, we go through a lot of.
What happens to these poor kids in the summer? That's my social worker brain.
Yeah.
I know.
I wish we could do, they have this at, like at parks and stuff.
Yeah.
Worry about hungry kids.
Good things. Right.
That concludes my report, thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Steve?
Good job, Jay.
Thanks.
Hey, Brian. Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, everybody. I'm doing well. Thank you. Start off with a little information on our ridership. As you know, we changed our fares back in March. We're hoping to see an impact of the fare changes on ridership. We are seeing some impacts, specifically on weekends. To give you a ballpark of what weekends look like, before the fare change, we're doing about 6,800 rides system-wide on Saturdays and Sundays. Last weekend, we did 8,800 rides. The weekend before that, we did 9,300 rides. And what we think we're seeing is that people are just moving toward that 7-day pass, where before they were using 10 ride passes, and maybe they weren't riding on weekends because they wanted to save those ride passes for when they needed it during the week. Now that they have the weekly pass, we're seeing more people have access to it and using those passes on weekends. Overall, we're still in that 50 to 52% range. Our total weekly ridership in March was about 56,000. Last week we did about 62,000 rides, so we're starting to see some uptick. Not a great amount, but it is moving in the right direction. Keep in mind our service levels today compared to where they were a year ago. We're about 75% in Syracuse of where our service levels were. So if you look where our ridership was compared to last year, it's about equal. We're more efficient, but really efficiency is not the most important thing. We'd like to have more people riding. Unfortunately, because of our driver shortage and continued challenges with that, we're not going to be able to add significant service in June. We're hopeful for September. A lot of that will depend on how our hiring goes in the coming months, and then hopefully in September we maybe, you know, we'd look to add some services if we're able to do so. Right now, we're not there. From a marketing standpoint, you know, we continue to be active on social media. We promoted Earth Day, the open house, the hiring event we had. We had a really, really successful Big Rig Day where, I don't know if you all are familiar with it, but all of the big vehicles in the county are opened up and kids come in and walk through, and our buses are very popular. Young kids like coming through and hopping on the bus and seeing the fare box and seeing the new buses. So we had a very successful Big Rig Day. We are about to embark on the 50th anniversary of our services. 50 years.
I remember not too long ago, I think we needed a sticker or a patch or something.
Yeah, for the 25th.
I have that in my study, actually, yeah.
40th, yeah.
Yeah, 40th, yeah.
So it's 50 years. We're finishing up the final touches of a wrapped bus that'll be wrapped in gold, in a gold wrap, and we'll be kicking that off probably in the not too distant future. You may see that bus on the road shortly. So.
Good question.
Sure.
The mask mandate is still in place.
Mask mandate is still in place on the buses. Yes.
How well is that computer check card thing, what you call it?
The mobile ticketing?
Yeah.
Mobile ticketing, we're still going through some testing with that. We're running some challenges. We're hoping to be able to work through those in the coming weeks and months and have it available as soon as possible. But it's a newer technology for the company that we're working with, and we're working with them to get through and have it right. We want to make sure that it is perfect when we roll it out and there'll be no glitches.
So, looking ahead, what about the fair being opened up? Service levels and.
State Fair?
Yeah.
State Fair, Joe, you wanna address that?
Throw him under the bus,
Man, he's almost like a hockey goalie. He deflected that.
Well,
Currently, the state fair service will be as last year's was, with one exception right now, which is, Long Branch Park, which unfortunately is undergoing some capital improvements and will not be available to us this year. We made a request, to see if there's anything that can be done, but I guess the way the schedule works, it's just not gonna be available, so. Right now, we are operating the Orange Lot, which is on site, the Willis Ave Lot, which is on site, Destiny, and our downtown location. And right now, that's all we have. We're still looking on the west side if there's anything, but right now, there's just such limited parking in buildings that were empty, or which, good news, is full now with, other employers, people are taking buildings over. So there's really no west side, area for us to look at right now, so. That's probably where it's gonna maintain this year.
And it's driven by manpower.
Absolutely, part of it's manpower, part of it's, their attendance is changed. It's a different governor, it's a different, where, previous, governor was interested in just sheer attendance and not necessarily the quality of the fair. This governor's more about quality versus quantity.
With less days.
So, yeah, and those less days, but, the focus has been on, how do you bring back, a good quality fair for your citizens. And if a million people show up, great. If 900,000 people show up, great. They're not focused on the numbers so much now, it appears. They're more focused on the quality. And of course, this year, with the way things are, our people will be able to afford to go 3 or 4 times, which is generally how they generate their attendance. A million people go, but really the reality is it's probably about 350, 400,000. Some people go 2 and 3 times, so.
So would it help, buying gas now is like paying your NIMO bill.
Yeah.
Is that I would think that would help you in the summer if it stays like it is.
I don't, it's not scared anybody yet. I think $5.50, $6 will start scaring people, God forbid that happens, but it's $4.50 is not scared anybody.
It's $4.92 somewhere.
Yeah. Oh, no, it's $4.89 in Cicero.
When gasoline jumped to $4 after Hurricane Katrina back in '05, we saw a significant and immediate impact on our ridership, where we were getting phone calls from people overloads on buses, sending buses out. Really, it was, you know, the 2005, 2008 period was, now gas has gone up and it has not made almost any impact on our ridership.
I mean, part of it is still working from
Minimum
home.
wage is a lot different now.
Yeah,
Yes.
you're paying people $18 an hour to pour coffee, I mean.
I think wages are different. Getting back to the state fair, demand last year was significantly reduced. Way reduced. We ran, a less service and we still had plenty of empty seats last year. Something we haven't really, seen in state fair ever.
We were almost a third of our regular ridership for the fair, and that was, and they added 5 extra days, we were still a third from our normal pandemic, so.
Any questions on anything else? Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Steve. Jeff?
Thank you, Brian. Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everybody. I wanted to give you a daily bus update. I want to give a special thanks to the staff that went out there. You've got John Weber, Brian Horeski, Tony Padalon, and Casey Parner. Did a fantastic job. They have the task of going out there and inspecting all the buses through the line. And with this time around, it's extremely challenging due to the fact you had the supply chain issue and delays, caused a lot of problems. With that in mind, with the delays, we still don't have all our buses. They should have all been here by now. We are still pending 12 buses, 5 of which should be here in about 2 weeks. And we're hoping to have all the buses here because we're gonna display one of the high back seat buses at the next board meeting. So we'll keep you posted. And now that MC has been implemented, we're gonna implement the new trapeze yard manager, get that going. This software program is gonna be a lot better than we're currently using. We currently use, it's an Excel spreadsheet. They input the buses manually in the garage where they're at, and then they print it out and post it in dispatch. Since this is gonna be live, it's gonna be streamlined, a lot easier. Drivers will be able to see it on time, real time. The board markers will be able to get the buses in the system a lot easier, so it's gonna be a lot better. And then it's gonna be a live update for the dispatch to see where the buses are. We got a lot of technology. And unfortunately, it doesn't have pucks or anything in the ground where it locates the buses. We're still manually putting the buses on the sheet.
Question.
Yes.
I don't know if this is your department or not, those scooters and stuff that.
Not my
That's
not my part.
Oh, okay.
It's gotta be the sheriff, man.
Okay. Whose department is that?
I'll take that.
Okay.
Until I can dish it off on somebody, but.
Okay, well, the scooters and stuff that we see, I noticed that the new company had the scooters all over the place and stuff like that. Central learning from what not to do for the scooter, does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Compared to what they're doing now.
So we
Am I
contracted
making
with the
sense?
same company that the city contracts with. We get insurance or yet? Okay. So before we can move forward, one of the prerequisites was that they provide us with their proof of insurance.
Okay.
Contract's not set to start until June 1, so we're still on the right timeline.
So we still got.
They have insurance.
10 days.
So we got 10 days. The only thing we're waiting on is their proof of insurance.
But you are evaluating the differences in what their current, company are doing compared to what Central is doing.
Yeah, we're actually gonna park them in front of your house.
Yeah, that's fine.
Got that
already. All right,
But we are, we've listened to some of the complaints that the city's gotten, and again, I think it's just working with the company. I think it's been, and Neil, you can chime in if you want, but, I think it's been more successful than anybody ever thought it was gonna be. The demand, the usage, everything has just skyrocketed, so we're hoping to see the same thing on the county side, and we just gotta manage it, and everyone's gotta understand that this is it's a new venture, it's a work in progress, and we're gonna muddle through it, and we'll get it done.
Now, where are you gonna be?
Well, we're in a little different situation than the city is, so, you know, the city of Syracuse has their contract and, you know, so they can, you know, put bike rails where they wanna put
Right.
bike rails. We don't own property other than our property, so
Right.
we're working with, Chris and I have been out meeting with, villages and towns, talking to them about putting corrals in their areas and, so we're just gonna expand that way. It's gonna be a slower process, you know, so we meet with the town of DeWitt and they say, yeah, you know, let's put one here, let's put one there, let's put one there. But we get that done and then we move on to the next town and maybe the next village. But it's not gonna be a quick, here it is, Onondaga County, and we're just throwing 1,000 bikes and scooters out there.
Are you gonna go outside on
That's our next step. Yep.
And not to get too far off track, but the city's experience has been overwhelmingly positive. It's set up for like the salacious headline, you know, but it's been, you know, if we're hitting 1,500 rides a day, now we're averaging, on 300 units or whatever it is. We have a small fraction of those rides that end with a complaint. The majority of those are complaints that are not legitimate, they're just people who are not familiar with the system. They think that it's abandoned, it's lost, it's whatever, but people much smarter than myself are on the tech side are working on this. So I think Central's in a good spot, and the city's more than happy to share all of our experience with the board, and also.
I know I contacted the company online and they sent me a survey, something I haven't filled it out yet.
Yeah, I mean, I was driving to work the other day and I saw one on Salina Street outside of JMA. That's parked there, it's on the right of way, it's right where it should be, it's standing upright. That's not an abandoned bike.
Yeah,
That's just
what-
waiting for the next rider.
That's what
I think if you don't know though, it
Right.
looks
Yeah.
like it's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right, yeah. That's just waiting for the next person to come up and use
Try to
it.
scoop
Yeah, I wanted the kids to educate me on how that worked and stuff like that the other day.
Did you get a helmet?
I
You need a helmet.
want a three-scooter, I don't want a two. Three,
Yeah, unfortunately, the bus pass we gave you does not work. You still gotta use the app, sorry. You have anything else? No? Thanks, sir. Thanks, sir. Mike?
Good morning, everybody. I'll bring you up to speed on a couple of projects we've been working on. On the back side, the system itself, we replaced our Nimble system, which is the virtual server aspect. It's actually hosting 45 different servers and desktops. That was done, that was completed really well. We are in the process of ordering other servers to replace some of the ones we have. We also have some mobility laptop type things we're ordering. We're coming with different parts that we're missing. They're on back order, and through our procurement department, they found another supplier, so we should be moving along in that pretty well. Thank you very much for keeping that going. There's another couple of projects that we're working on. Our IVR system is aged out pretty well. It's on its own server, and our Clever Devices system will be replacing that. Clever Devices reached out to us this past Thursday. We had they're basically ready to go. They're working with Enchouse to get that up and running. We're going to be replacing 5 network switches. We already have the switches. We just need to configure them and put them in place. They'll be for Oswego and Auburn, and then also for the Utica
Explain to the
facilities.
board what the switches cost.
What they cost?
Yeah.
It varies, but because we're looking at ones that have 48 ports in them, they're about $3,000 to $5,000 a piece. They're Cisco, everything
Yeah,
is.
it's fine, it's, when we talk switches and a lot, it's like, people sometimes think switches.
Yeah, these, in a lot of ways, it's almost like a traffic light switch,
Right.
directing where traffic is going and so on, yeah. Thank you. For that. And, we're also looking at our PA system in here. We met with one of our guys, Bob, and I met with the Matrix team this past week, placing where the new PA speaker's gonna be going and so on and so forth, so that's underway. And final on a cybersecurity note, about a week and a half or so ago, our guys came across a situation where people who were using the Edge browser, going to a website found an alert, if you will, and the lower right-hand tray of the window system. There's an alert system that comes up and says, hey, you got this, you gotta take care of. It was telling people that our Sophos program needed to be updated. It didn't, we do it automatically. It was a link to something else. Our systems caught it. It stopped from people from doing it. But I thought it was kind of an interesting hack that people are putting out there now. It's kind of easy for people to get into your system when they do that kind of thing. And then Wednesday, wouldn't you know it, the New York State Information System Center sent out a notification basically saying the same kind of thing that was there. And yesterday, we found out through the CISA, which is the, if I can get this correctly, Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. It's the Department of Homeland Security. I know. They sent out a notification that systems that use.
You understand the rest of us just think you're making this stuff up, right?
Oh, I'm not actually. This is part of Homeland Security. There's a vulnerability in VMware. VMware is the company that actually does virtual environments. We actually use VMware for our systems, but there's many different aspects of it. Back in April, they sent out a patch with the system. Somehow or other, hackers got in with what that patch was, so when people put the patch in, it created a vulnerability within their system. Luckily for us, that was really for systems that are hosted on a website, off the site here. We're local here, we weren't affected. We do maintain our patches on a regular basis anyway, so we're up to date with all of our patches for that. They are just clever out there, you know, they're just all different kinds of ways.
Keep up with all this.
Yeah, so don't click on anything. You can go to the websites themselves and keep your patches going.
Question, how is the security system working out for as the others concerned? You can see what's going on. Is that how you?
Yeah, we have security cameras in all of the locations. I'm assuming you're talking about the security cameras there. Yeah, we maintain the security cameras that we have, and that'll be one of the systems we're going to be updating later on this year. So yes, we do that.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Joe, operations.
Good morning. As reported last month, we had reached a tentative agreement with the city of Rome, or our Rome employees, with the union there. And on May 11th, they ratified that tentative agreement, which is good news. It only took us about 4 or 5 weeks to actually get that done. It was really nice, fairly cordial. Some significant changes in that contract, although it's a small property. The things that we did here in Syracuse that we talked about previously, which is really paying for productivity and not paying for people to stay home. We took that same theme, applied it to their contract. We've been trying this for years. They've been very difficult in giving up their time off, but we were very successful this time in getting that done. The contract itself averages 6% a year over 3 years. That may seem high, but when you consider what the givebacks were, we're really in line with what would be a normal contract rate of about 3.5%. So we were actually pretty good shape. We got significant buyback with floating holiday, sick time, personal time, the elimination of post-retirement healthcare or life insurance, things that have been that were put in place, 40, 50 years ago when nobody cared about that stuff. Well, now it costs money, significant money. And when you guarantee life insurance to someone's death, it's very expensive, as you can imagine. So we eliminated it here in Syracuse, we eliminated it in Rome. You're gonna hear a very similar theme about Utica next month. I'll get into that in a second. So the idea that we were able to take a bunch of things, prescription drugs, got them to be a normal price now, got doctor appointments to be back to a normal copay. In exchange for that, they did. They got a living wage, which benefits not only them, but it benefits us. It's a hiring process that's easier to make. It's easier to retain the employees, and it makes it easier. The other thing that we got back that was very important in Rome is when they were under the city's control, the city really didn't control them. They hired what were called driver dispatchers, and they kind of ran the department. So it's kind of like the prisoners running the prison. wisest thing. So it took us a long time to get that out of this contract, which we just did. And what it does is it takes that 60 hours of management time that these drivers were sitting in the office, and we're gonna put that on the street. So it helps guarantee that the service goes out every day. We're gonna be able to make some positive changes there and continue with a good product as well. So I am requesting of the board a ratification of this contract from the board's behalf.
Questions for, Joe?
Yeah, I would just like to thank Joe, Chris, Jackie. We got a guest appearance here from Casey Martin, the Utica, our operations manager in that area. Just a great job. I mean, you know, both of these, although we're jumping the gun a little bit on the Utica one, but I assume that's gonna be ratified. Just a great job. You know, these contracts were negotiated over you know, a handful of meetings, and they weren't contentious. I sat in on a couple of them. You know, they were very professional. Just great dialogue back and forth between labor and management. And you know, so I want to thank those individuals that were part of that, because we couldn't have gotten it done without them, and did a great job. So thank you.
Any questions for Joe? Motion to approve the contract. Julius first, second, Tina. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and as Brian mentioned, which I couldn't put in my report because it happened after, the day after actually I wrote this. We did settle a tentative agreement in Utica. They are, we believe, voting on this next Friday.
Next Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday.
Well, Friday, but it'll be completed on Friday. So hopefully we'll be bringing a
Next month.
ratification vote as well in June for that contract. That will seal up all the contracts we have through 2024, so.
Good. Good
We
job.
wanted to discuss that for a while, so.
Good.
Thanks, Joe. Mr. Chairman, that's it on the senior staff reports.
Okay, the financial committee report, Matt, we discussed everything in detail in finance. Motion was made to bring the draft financial statements. It Linda did a great job going over, and good financial position. At that point, I need a motion to move for the financial statements. Luella, second. Tina, all in favor? Aye. Jackie brought up the medical insurance premium write-off. Motion was made to bring it to the full board for approval. I need a motion on that. Robert, second. Darlene, all in favor? Aye. Zero emission fleet transition plan, Terry came up and spoke about. We need a motion. Motion was made to bring it to the full board for approval. I need a motion on that. Robert, second. Monty, all in favor? Aye. Under resolutions 4B, we had a significant fight. Who's gonna make the motion on the authorization of the almost $6 million grant here. The motion was made to bring it here to approve. Any motion on the $5.9 million grant application there? Neil, second, Darlene, all in favor? Aye. Okay, also, Chris brought two motions forward. Resolution 4C to award contract for sprinkler system inspections to Parkside Fire and Security for a 5-year term. Motion was made to bring it to the full board for approval. Can I have a motion to award contract? Okay, Darlene, second. Well, all in favor? Aye. And also the printer maintenance service, with resolution 4D, for awarding contract to Eastern Managed Print Network for a 5-year term. Motion was made to bring it to the full board for approval. May I have a motion, please? Darlene, Tina, second. All in favor? Aye. That's it for the finance. Okay. I'll move over to Darlene. She had Susanna present today.
The governance committee met early this morning. Susanna presented a strategic plan update, including performance measures report. She Also, an internal control update was discussed. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my governance committee report.
And no action was needed on this, and that was, a good report that was given to us. Thank you, Susanna. Okay. Old business,
None, sir.
new business,
We're done.
today's Friday, motion for adjournment, have a great weekend, take care, thanks everybody.